14 years after the horrific events that occurred in a farmhouse along the back roads of Texas, the murderous family of redneck cannibals are at it again, this time in a mobile food truck that sells homemade chili. When a local DJ accidentally records one of their murders, the family sicks their vicious dog Leatherface on her. Meanwhile, a vengeful Texas Ranger is hot on their trail, leading to an epic confrontation that made this film one of the weirdest cult classics of all time, 1986's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Austin Johnson.
I am the Lord of the Harvest, Josh Allred.
I'm Caleb Leger.
And this is the 150th episode of Filmgazm.
Whoa!
Yeehaw!
Happy Wednesday and happy 150, everyone. This is the Filmgazm podcast, and I am joined by the entire Filmgazm podcast team. Thanks for being here, guys, to help me dissect TCM2. This one's a long time coming.
Easy. Yeah, I got nothing better to do right now. So
yeah.
Happy to be here.
What's better than talking about a sequel that got a change of heart on? So I'm excited.
That's for damn sure. I don't think anyone, much less, me and you respectively, were expecting that to happen.
Yeah, I thought we were going to come into a 2-on-2 situation here where we'd be kind of just fucking firing away at each other, but I think it's actually going to be kind of cordial.
Yeah, I'm glad that didn't happen too, because we would have fucking lost.
Yeah, well, yeah, yes, because they were right. So they won. You guys won. Congratulations.
That's right.
The movie is good. I moved it from a 6 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. I think it's really solid, and I had a lot of fun with it. Josh said something that I think is super important earlier when we were kind of texting about the movie is context changes everything. And when you're a teenager and don't know exactly what you're seeing, you should probably rewatch it later on when you're an adult and care a lot more about movies.
I think that, and also context on how this film got made plays a big part. If you kind of look at Tobe Hooper's history as a director and how it led to him doing this sequel, damn near a decade later, it kind of, to me, it helps in knowing what kind of film you're getting when you walk into this sequel.
For sure.
Yeah, that's true. I personally moved this from a 3 to a 6. It's not perfect. But
holy shit, a 3.
I had it as a 3. When I first saw this, I'm like, fuck this piece of shit. But now I've, with everything I've seen because of this podcast, all the Fulci shit I sat through, random, suggestions from y'all, I've been reinforced. And this movie, I have a lot more to back this up, like understand what they were trying to do with this. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it's not terrible. I think a 6. It might, maybe a 7. I might bump this.
Very nice.
It's a fun sequel, and like I said, to me, it's like it stands as the only true sequel, which helps. That I'm sure having Tobe Hooper back as a director helps tremendously with that. It's the only one in this whole franchise that really actually picked up from where the last left off and changed the story. I know Texas Chainsaw 3D tried to do that, but that quickly got undone when they should be in like their 40s or 50s, but they're in like their fucking 20s.
Yeah.
Well, continuity. I think it's clear Tobe Hooper is the only one who kind of gave a shit, really. Like, he wanted to make a story here. And then after he left the franchise, I mean, this thing just, I haven't seen 3 or Next Generation, but I've heard it goes off the rails almost immediately.
Yeah, no, they totally do. The only thing that I think a franchise that has like a worse continuity than this is probably the Halloween movies. And that's saying a lot because like those movies got fucked up so much. But the fact that even though they've tried to reboot this franchise 2 different times, 3 different times now, depending on how you look at it, like it's still about these 2 movies. The first 2 movies are by leaps and bounds better than anything that they've come up with since. The only saving grace I will say about the first remake that came out was they had Daniel Pearl as the DP for it, and he upped his own game, and that's about it. I mean, everything else, like I just didn't. I like it, but it's not. It was never gonna beat the original as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The remake, I think, has it's got its moments. I think, casting R. Lee Ermey as a psycho redneck sheriff is fucking perfect, but overall, it's just not nearly as memorable. Like, I can recall the entirety of the 74 one. I remember like bits and pieces of the 03 one. And I think a lot of remakes are like that. They're just kind of hitting the bullet points. They don't have a lot of longevity.
I'll defend the remake. I actually really like the remake. It doesn't hold a candle, obviously, to the original, but I really like it. But I also saw it when I was young, and it stuck with me. I think it's one of the few times that somehow Michael Bay was able to produce a semi-decent fucking horror remake with Platinum Dunes. Because you could tell, like, when they were doing it, along, like you were saying, Josh, like getting Daniel Pullback, they seemed to actually actively want to make something that was akin to the original film. Like, I never got the feeling during it or when I was watching behind the scenes that they were trying to actively be like, we're doing our own Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, no, we know this is a remake of something that people love. How do we do that for a new audience?
Yeah, and it's not terrible, but like you said, I mean, the 74 one is incredibly hard to top and will never be topped. It is lightning in a bottle, but it has, people have come close to making something that, at least stands next to it. But the first one is a bona fide classic. We covered it on the episode 101, I believe. That was our like refresher. Like, we just done a whole David Lynch thing, and we're like, let's start with a classic for the next 100. And yeah, that was a good decision. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, that movie is a masterpiece. It's so the vision is so clear in that movie. Whether it be something that they kind of did on the run, or if it's something that was planned out, the movie's just awesome, kicks ass, kind of embodies what the 70s, that decade of horror, like what it's all about, and just minimalistic, low budget, and just kick ass stuff. So had a blast doing that episode, and it's cool to be here for 150, 49 episodes later. Fuck.
Oh, beautiful.
Almost a year. Yeah.
So we've established we all like this film, TCM2.
Love the first one. Yeah. Like the second one. Yeah. That's for me. That's just for me.
Yeah, me too. So I'm interested to hear where you guys first discovered this film. Caleb, let's start with you. Where did you first see TCM2?
God, it took me a long time because I started weird. Like, I saw the remake first, and then I finally was able to get a hold of the original and watch that. And I think when I was in college and I was getting my own streaming services for myself, I was finally able to find the damn movie. And because before that, it was somehow incredibly hard to get for whatever reason. And I finally found it and watched it, and just at first I was like, what the fuck am I watching? This is not. And then when I looked into like the history of how it got made and stuff, I was like, oh, okay. And watched a couple of times, like, okay, and it grew on me. It was like, oh, this is a really kick-ass sequel that isn't afraid to be different, isn't afraid to just say, look, we know what you want, but this is what you're getting.
That's a debatable positive, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, I have seen the negative of that yesterday with Don't Breathe 2, so
yeah. Oh God. Yeah, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Josh, how about you?
So since I'm the old bastard of the bunch,
the elder statesman.
Well, yeah, sure, I'll take that. It's a nicer description. As with a lot of horror movies, I saw it at an inappropriate age. Actually, so to give way too much information about myself, I just had knee surgery last week, And as I'm recovering, I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to watch a bunch of movies. And my dad came in to help me out and kind of be my nurse for a little bit. And I was telling him that I was going to do this recording with you guys. And I asked him, I was like, hey, because my mom, as I've stated before, my mom was really the one that got me into horror movies. And she was the reason why I watched horror movies. My dad, ironically enough, was all about comedies and Westerns. And we actually watched Bride of Frankenstein together. And then we also watched Dirty Dozen.
Ooh,
and as we were
nice.
talking, I asked my dad, I was like, hey, did you and Mom rent Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 on VHS when I was a kid? He was like, yep. I was like, because I'm pretty sure I remember seeing Bill Moseley in that whole scene where he first gets into the radio station. He's fucking scratching his fucking head with the fucking the coat hanger and doing all that shit. And that haunted me for so long. So it was probably like 88, maybe, I was 4 or 5 years old at that point.
Jesus.
Well, I was the kind of kid that I always got burned by my curiosity. Around that time, I also managed to get my eyes on Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So that also warped my brain. But yeah, like always being curious in what my mom and dad were watching, paid for it, because that image of fucking Chop Top just sitting there scratching his plate and then fucking eating the skin, like it scared the shit out of me. I had no context for it. I had no idea what the hell was going on. As soon as my parents saw me, they were, oh, you need to go away, go upstairs, get out of here. You're not supposed to be watching this. Go away. And yeah, mess with me. My dad kind of laughed about it. He was like, you probably saw some stuff you shouldn't have seen at your age. I'm like, yeah, well, I turned out pretty good though, didn't I?
Yeah, here I am.
That's great. That makes perfect sense.
Fucking connects a lot of dots, doesn't it?
The puzzle is almost finished. Austin, how about you?
Much later for me. Definitely wasn't allowed to watch movies like this, nor were my parents ever, or are they still interested in anything like this. Definitely had to kind of find it in my own way, and being shown Texas Chainsaw 74 obviously piqued my interest. So probably 16 or 17 is when I finally, found for myself Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And I made the mistake of not really, looking anything up or reading much about it, or really, I just knew same director. Okay, cool. Let's see what's going on, And I just watched it in a state of mind that I think a lot of movies I watched at that age, where it just kind of washed over me, and I was like, whatever, that's nothing to me, and I'll just move on. And then, obviously this is just my second time ever seeing it. When I was watching it last night, I was pretty blown away, because even when going into this episode, like Connor and I talked about, like, oh dude, here we go. Like this episode's going to be so fun, but they're going to be coming at us because they love this movie. And I was just very pleasantly surprised by mainly the production design and the makeup. Tom Savini is like putting in a Hall of Fame performance in this movie. And I didn't know when I first saw it that L.M. Kit Carson's the guy who wrote it. And he, wrote one of my favorite 80s movies, Paris, Texas. He also is the star of one of my favorite kind of experimental 60s movies, David Holzman's Diary from 67. And putting those dots together while watching this movie, and like, these guys understand Texas, and I love Texas movies. So it just clicked. Last night it all clicked and made sense. But that first time I watched it, it was one of those experiences where it just kind of, oh shit, that happened. What's next? And I'm okay with the way it went down. I kind of went the long way around, but I'm okay with it. Definitely would have been scarred if I would have seen this before like age 12. I was just not exposed to this kind of stuff. But now I find it to be kind of beautiful, shocking, funny, scary. I love this kind of stuff, like that scratching of the plate with the hanger. It's like that. I love shit like that now. So yeah, I had an absolute blast.
It's funny because I was watching it when I got the group text. You guys was like, okay, you won. I like it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was listening to the Don't Breathe 2 episode, and I got to the end where you guys are just like, oh, we got to watch this movie.
Yeah.
How the tune has changed within a day or two, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it just takes that hour and 40 minutes. That's all it takes, baby. And it helps when Dennis Hopper is just fucking screaming. And Dennis Hopper is a guy I've become a huge fan of, and how about him doing this and Blue Velvet? How about that in 86? That's kind of crazy.
Exactly. Like something I noted in my review about it was that he's channeling this manic energy, and I'm pretty sure, and I don't know for a fact which came first, and I mean I don't think it really matters, because that line between like who Frank is and who fucking Lefty is pretty blurry by the end of the movie.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then also just to shout it out, I believe at 86, yeah, he also got an Oscar nomination for Hoosiers. So he had a fucking fantastic 1986.
Yeah. He's in Hoosiers, River's Edge, Texas Chainsaw 2, Blue Velvet. Yeah. Awesome year. Just churning them out. Hopper used to do that shit though. He was just like, fuck, let's just ride. Let's fucking make movies. And those are the best character actors.
Yeah, especially since he'd been kind of, uninsurable and kind of a pariah in the industry until Blue Velvet really put him back on the map.
Yeah, it's definitely the mid-late 80s when he's like, all right, I'm in, I'm game. And then, it all comes to a fucking peak in Speed, 1994. And you're like, okay, yeah, this guy's the man.
I fucking love Hopper and Speed. I saw that when I was young. So I was just like, what is this awesome movie with Keanu Reeves and Dennis Hopper?
Yeah, that was more the kind of movies my parents were watching when I was a kid, was more stuff like that, kind of mainstream action, stuff like that I would be like, wait, what the hell is this?
Yeah, no, my parents were like, I think I saw more comedies and action because I was the one that was having to seek out the horror movies because horror-loving parents like I am.
Yeah.
See, I have an interesting kind of relationship with horror movies early on. My mom and dad were huge horror fans. They would rent out entire like shelves at Blockbuster of horror films and just work their way from A to Z. And then when I came along, I had my situation with Evolution. If you guys have heard the show, my problems with the fucking blue monkey that fucked me up as a kid.
Not being a therapist on this episode again. Okay, I'm past.
Again, that's also one of my absolute favorite episodes. That helped me work through a lot of shit. But we after that, I became absolutely terrified of horror films. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to look at the case. I didn't want anything to do with horror films because I was afraid of getting scared. So I would hear about these movies, The Omen, Texas Chainsaw, The Exorcist, stuff that was just laying around the house. And whenever my mom and dad would watch it, I would run, go hide in my room and like read a Muppet book or some shit. And that all changed when I watched The Thing with my mom and dad, which I was way too young to be watching, but they didn't turn it off and I just stayed there. So whose fault is it really? But I saw, like crazy shit. And I was more curious than scared. And then I started kind of looking around at stuff. And then we rented Texas Chainsaw Massacre when I was about 14, maybe. And I watched it fully expecting to be just completely fucked up. And I was like, this is pretty good. This is interesting. And there's not a lot of blood here. And I was really surprised. And from there, I was watching all of it. And my uncle has always been such a huge fan of the second film. And he told me for years, like, that's the real best Texas Chainsaw movie.
That makes so much sense. Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
I wouldn't go that far, but
did you say it was
neither would I.
One?
Yeah, I mean,
I love TCM too, but like we covered earlier, like the original is King. The 74 is OG King, right?
Well, my uncle Sean is a huge Dennis Hopper fan, like the biggest Hopper fan I've ever known. He got to have lunch with him once, talked to him about a project. Yeah. Apparently he was like really cool, but weird as fuck.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I can see that.
Surprised about that.
But he had the DVD, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, some old school DVD that just had Hopper on the cover. Leatherface is nowhere to be found. It's just Hopper dressed as a Texas Ranger. And yeah, in that context, this looks badass. So in 2016, I believe, I put it on and I watched it. And I was like, what the fuck? Because I always thought a movie should speak for itself. You shouldn't need too much outside context. That's changed substantially since we started the show. I just want to point that out. But at the time, I was like, this movie should, my uncle said it was great. I trust his judgment. Let's watch this. And I was out within 20 minutes. I was like, this is goofy. This is ridiculous. Why is he humping a chainsaw? What is the point here? Like, why? What do I care? And I after it was over, I was pissed. I was like, I went to Sean, like, you lied to me. You said this was awesome. What the fuck?
How dare you?
Uncle Sean.
Pissed. I was like, for years, he's been telling me, like, you got to watch this one. And then I did. And I'm like, that was a waste of my time. And I've held on to that for 5 years. And then here we go, 150. And I'm fully expected, set in my ways. Like, I watched the movie once. It was terrible. Move on. And here I watched it again. And I'm like, oh my God, I get it. I was telling Austin, it's like the moment in It's Always Sunny when Mac is trying to show Frank what it means to come out. And Frank has his moment of like, oh my God, I understand now. I get it. I had that. I was like, this is why it's awesome. This is what he meant. So
yeah,
my uncle's on a trip right now, but when he gets back, I'm going to be like, thank you. I understand now.
Yeah. I love you again. Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, it's definitely made me think about other movies that I've watched that I hated. Like maybe I was just not in the right mindset. Maybe I, didn't know enough about the production. Maybe it's one of those films that takes a couple times to get. So I'm going to go back through some stuff and think like, maybe I should watch this again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I already have like a mental list of at least 3 movies that I want to retry. So thank you, TCM2.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely certain horror films, especially that are made that like you have to like know how they got made. I mean, TCM2, Halloween 3 is another one that I feel like you have to understand the context of how that film happened to really enjoy Halloween 3.
That's true.
It's just like there's just certain films like there's stories behind it that help you better understand what you're saying, like what that director was going for.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean like one thing that I love about TCM2 is that you actually do have to kind of like to get into the club of people that are like, oh, you either get it or you don't. And that's what this is with there's a lot of horror movies like this where like once you get in, you realize, oh, it just took a little bit of extra work on my part to kind of just open up, see more things, read some stuff. People don't have to do that. Like Connor is saying, they can judge a movie based on, oh, whatever, I'm just watching it. If it's not good, it's not good. That's fine. You're never going to get rewarded that extra little bit if you don't do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of on each viewer. And I know all 4 of us are kind of keen on, obviously we're doing a podcast about movies. We're keen on learning how these movies get made and like, what's the meat to them. So people are just not going to get it. There's going to be a lot of people, including fucking Roger Ebert, who just, they don't want to get it. And that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's fine, but like I said, it's a lot more rewarding if, like, especially in particularly this case, you look at the road to how this film got made. Like Josh said earlier, the techniques that Hooper employs throughout, and a lot of the actual like callbacks and other smart things he does throughout the film to subvert expectations, to keep it in continuity and things like that are a lot more rewarding if you do pay attention to that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Movies in general will they'll reward you hand over fist if you're willing to put in like a little bit of extra work. I think it's the same with music too. If you know how an album's made or know how an artist did this certain thing, it can make it a little bit more unique and like special to you as a consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get further into TCM2, I know Josh wanted to throw a quick spotlight on a Shudder exclusive he recently enjoyed. So why don't you tell us about that, Josh?
Okay. So I follow a bunch of different little boutique labels on Twitter, and I'm, big physical media person, and Diabolic threw out one day that they were down to just a couple of copies that were had signed slipcovers of this new movie called Jacob's Wife. And that movie stars Barbara Crampton and Larry Fessenden, who are two names that are very, very beloved in the genre. And I couldn't pass up that opportunity. I knew it was coming to Shudder, but I was like, I got to see this movie. And I actually got my dad to watch it with me. And my dad's not a huge horror fan. He'll watch stuff from time to time. It's just not his bag. And he watched it with me. His biggest complaint was that the blood was too unrealistic. It's like, why does it just gotta squirt out like that? It doesn't make any damn sense. I'm just like, look, man, you're watching a movie about a vampire. Like, what else are you expecting? So, like I said, movie's called Jacob's Wife. Barbara Crampton, Larry Fessenden are the main characters. They're a couple. Larry Fessenden is playing a minister, and Barbara Crampton is his wife, Anne. Where you pick up is she's very unsatisfied with where she's at. She's really trying to figure out where her life has gone and how 30 years has gone by so fast. There are a couple of shots that lead you to think that she's also kind of contemplating herself, her physical body, her beauty, all of these things. She's definitely unhappy because it's pretty clear that Jacob takes advantage of her presence. There are examples of it that happen once Anne gets bitten that kind of reinforce all of that. And really, it's a really interesting kind of thing because not many people know it. Barbara Crampton had a huge gap in her career where she was a stay-at-home mom, raised two kids, and only in 2011 did she make a comeback in You're Next. And from there, she started to get more interested in being a producer. One of the movies that she produced was one called Beyond the Gates. And that was one I saw. The only reason why I watched it, because fucking Barbara Crampton was in it. And I was rewarded. It's a really great movie. Oddly enough, that we're talking about Texas Chainsaw 2, which is a movie about family. That movie is also about family and brothers and all that stuff. So she found this script for Jacob's Wife. He did some screenwriting competitions, and she liked it and she wanted to produce it. She wanted to get the movie made. She didn't want to be in it as an actor. She just wanted to be a producer and develop the script that way. The more the script got developed, she started to really see herself in Anne and a lot of the things. And there are a couple of interviews she had done, a couple of podcasts where she brought all that stuff up and got really personal with like her own relationship with her husband and how the feelings that she had were exactly the things that were happening to Anne in the script. And she went up to the director, this guy, Travis Stevens, and it's like, I want to be Anne. And he was like, fucking go for it. She gets Larry Fessenden to come in. They had already played a couple in a movie by Ted Gagan called We Are Still Here, which is his love letter, since you brought up Fulci earlier, which is kind of his love letter to House by the Cemetery. So if you've already seen it, I say go. You've seen House by the Cemetery, haven't you, Connor?
Yes.
So watch We Are Still Here again and there are so many like subtle but also very hammer over the head nods to Lucio Fulci's movie. I've thrown some exchanges on Twitter with the director Ted Gagan about it, and so this movie is really good. I really enjoyed it. It's the vampire in it is really good. It kind of goes back to Nosferatu in how it looks more like a creature, but it's also this movie is also kind of about like Anne finding herself again and being very very comfortable with what she's become, and she's excited by that. She's found this part of her that she didn't know was still there, and that was one of kind of an exchange she has with the vampire who's known as the Master, who you would think it's like, you know, vampire's whole shtick. You're called the Master. You're supposed to be ruling over things and people and all this stuff, and that's not the Master's purpose. The Master's purpose was to show her that she had the power to make the decision on whether or not to fully become a vampire or, you know, just merely be Jacob's wife. And that's why the title is what it is, even though it's that, like, this is all about Anne. It's really good. There's some really good gory moments in it. There's some humor in there too. And I mean, you also get to see two people in their 60s have a little sex scene. So Barbara Crampton's still hot. And that's just something like you don't really see. You don't really see people who are old enough to be grandparents as main characters in a movie, in any movie, let alone a horror movie. You know, they're always just these secondary throwaway characters. So I really enjoyed it for that reason. So if anybody listening to this doesn't already have Shudder, what the fuck's your problem? Go get it and watch Jacob's Wife. It's great.
When does it stream on Shudder? Because I've been dying to see this fucking movie.
Thursday.
Oh, fuck yes.
Tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been a minute since we had a spotlight. Fantastic. Yeah, I love vampire movies, and I saw Beyond the Gates. I've seen We Are Still Here. So yeah, I think I'll check this out.
Yeah, me too. Larry Fessenden. Huh, what a legend. He's the man. He's in one of my favorite movies from the 90s, River of Grass, Kelly Reichardt's directorial debut. And his hair is so cool. Like, his hair in the 90s is so fucking awesome. His IMDb picture is one of my favorites. That guy's just a fucking rock star.
Yeah, he also does a throwback to like the radio plays. It's a podcast called Tales from Beyond the Pale. And he does beautiful. A lot of characters in it. Barbara Crampton's in it a lot. There's just a revolving door of really good actors that go through there. It's really, really good. Larry Fessenden has a really interesting trait about him. He has a very environmentalist approach to how he makes his movies. So that's definitely something worth checking out. A lot of his movies, he tackled a lot of the Universal monster movies in his own way. He had his first feature was Habit, it's a vampire movie.
95, right?
Yep. And then he did Beneath, which is his Creature from the Black Lagoon movie. He also did his take on Frankenstein, which he shot in a loft in New York called Depraved. What else? He did a Yeti movie, I think, or Wendigo. Sorry, Wendigo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
That's
been
early
around
2000s.
Yeah, he's been around forever. His company Glass Eye Picks is really all about fostering a lot of new talent. Speaking of Shudder, somebody that was his assistant for a while, I believe, this woman named Jen Wexler, she did a movie that Shudder picked up called The Ranger. So Larry Fessenden's all about bringing in new voices and new talent. So yeah, check it out.
Super cool. Yeah, he's the man.
He was also in this video game called Until Dawn. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's badass.
That was an awesome game. That's great, guys. Thanks for the info there. Check out Jacob's Wife on Shudder Thursday, August 19th, right?
Yes, 19th.
Awesome.
And get Shudder, because I've been on my catch up of movies that I missed from last year.
Yeah.
I've been focusing on Shudder, and boy, have I been watching some good goddamn movies on there. I think I've seen like the Mortuary Collection, The Dark and the Wicked, Porno, a couple others. I can't remember the title off of my head right now, but I've been going down a Shudder rabbit hole, and it's awesome. I need to watch A Vicious Fun. That's the one I've been wanting to see recently. I've been hearing a lot of good things about that one.
You get an incredible range of films for just $5 a month. It's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, one of the most efficient and badass streaming services, maybe the most, on the market.
I mean, it's they work so hard to like on the show side to get their own original stuff on there. They're constantly announcing new original stuff. Like they just announced a new docuseries today. That sounds really cool. Where they're each episode is dedicated to exploring a famous horror movie villain like Freddy Krueger and Chucky. They just announced that.
That's dope.
That's cool.
It just got announced. Speaking of Shudder, the new VHS today. They finally confirmed October release on Shudder.
Great.
Yeah, we're finally getting October 6th. The new VHS is coming out.
There you go.
Yeah, they work on getting their own stuff. They're really good about grabbing these things like Jacob's Wife, Mandy, like these festival hits, and grabbing them real quick so they can have them on the site so people can see them. So they're just awesome. I love Shudder.
Hell yeah, me too. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is the only real direct sequel to the 1974 classic horror film. Original director Tobe Hooper returned, this time with the plans to make the film more comically slanted, which he always wanted to do. He partnered up with Cannon Films, who were expecting a straight-up horror movie and were disappointed with Hooper's results. I passed the buck.
Okay, so like I say all the time, context is king. All right, so we talked a lot about how quote unquote violent the original Texas Chainsaw is and how it is regarded as one of the scariest movies ever made. When in fact, most of the violence is implied or just not even there. And I think that's a testament to how the movie is constructed, that it really puts everything that is viscerally like happening in your brain. At the same time, there's a lot of very black humor in that movie that is directly from Tobe Hooper's personality. Anybody that has talked about him or you hear the man himself talk, he's one of those guys that could tell you a dirty joke and never crack a smile. He's just that, like, that's how he rolls. And he really he knew that if he was going to make a sequel to this movie, it had to be more. There had to be more violence. The characters had to be more animated than they were before. And it just had to be funnier than it was before. So everything, I mean, there are moments in the first Texas Chainsaw where I do still laugh at it, primarily coming from Jim Sidow. And one of my favorite lines in the entire movie is when he and the hitchhiker come back and he finds out what Leatherface did at the door. He's like, "Look what your brother did to the door. He ain't got no pride in his home." Shit like that. Or how he's like worried about making sure the lights are off when he leaves. Like, just those little things are just so damn funny, and they cut the tension so well. And everything about that, like, it just gets cranked up to 11. Cannon Films. Anybody that has ever watched anything with Chuck Norris or Charles Bronson or Jean-Claude Van Damme, or has ever seen Breakin', or its wonderful sequel, Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. Those kinds of movies were all funded by these two Israeli guys, Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus of Cannon Films. They really they were trying to take the world by storm. I highly recommend watching the appropriately titled Electric Boogaloo, the untold story of Cannon Films, as well as, because this is true fucking Golan and Globus fashion, They did not appear for interviews in that documentary. They instead chose to make their own and beat out the release of that documentary by a few weeks. Theirs is called The Go-Go Boys. I haven't had a chance to watch that one, but I'm sure it's full of accurate information about these two guys. So they did a lot of what anybody does when they try to go get their movies funded. They sell ideas. They would have posters. They would have pitches. They would go to Cannes and just sell movie ideas. Never have a script. Nothing. He would Menachem Golan was essentially like he was the face of it. He was in front of people doing all this shit, and he would just sell ideas all the time. He saw Texas Chainsaw, and he was like, he wanted that movie made. Famously, when Texas Chainsaw 2 was getting screened for test audiences, and they were laughing, Tobe Hooper's loving it. Those two come back. We want the monsters. We want the monsters. They didn't get it. They thought they were getting a straight up horror movie, and they just didn't get that. They did not get it, and they were pissed. And they wanted Tobe Hooper to make it scarier. And that was kind of one of the things that I'm pretty sure, because the guy that edited that movie was one of their editors. And Menachem Golan was also very famous for re-editing trailers and doing it the way he wanted them done. Just everything about them, just over the top, excessive, always trying to put in as little money as they could to get the most out. Famously, before they started production on this movie, they took away like $1 million from their budget. Right before they were about to shoot, they're like, yeah, we're taking $1 million away. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, are you serious? And the only reason Tobe Hooper even signed on with these guys is because they agreed to fund 2 other movies of his, Life Force and Invaders from Mars. Life Force, again, I love it. It's just so bananas, but their hands are in it, and it ultimately affects what you see on screen. And I think to a certain extent, that's what happened with Texas Chainsaw 2. Yeah, like there's so many stories about how these guys were just total assholes, and all they cared about was making money, and it was all about quantity, not quality. Even though they were always fighting to get recognition, they didn't get it. They didn't get it. And I mean, granted, they made some pretty awesome movies. Like, I think Death Wish 3, I think, is one of the greatest of the Death Wish movies. So some of the Chuck Norris movies they made were pretty cool. They famously overpaid Sylvester Stallone like something like 20-something million to do Over the Top, a movie entirely about arm wrestling. That says all. That says it all. That says everything you need to know about these two guys. Man. And yeah, so I think knowing that, you kind of understand that, and it almost always seemed to be the case with anything that Tobe Hooper worked on, that inevitably somebody else was going to come in and fuck him, and not letting him not leaving him completely alone to do his own thing. I think the only other time that he was left alone and you got something that was good, unfortunately, was like the Masters of Horror episodes that he did. Those things were fucking amazing. And I just found the DVD of Dance of the Dead from my buddy Ty at Orbit DVD, where you can get all of your brand new and used DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, books, weird shit. Go to Orbit DVD. Tell him Ty sent you. Complain about him. Tell him you love him. Either way, he loves the attention. But yeah, I found it for like $6. I was like, fucking done, because I'm trying to get the Masters of Horror episodes back. So, yeah, kind of having that in your head when you see this, and it does kind of tell a story of the rest of Tobe Hooper's filmmaking career, that somebody was always trying to mess with what he was doing when the guy was very competent and a very accomplished director and a writer, that you didn't need to mess with him. Just let the man do his work, because the things that work in Texas Chainsaw, and he ramped up in Texas Chainsaw 2, are amazing. Absolutely amazing. And the fact that he got Tom Savini to do the special effects for him only made it better. Made it better.
I was about to point out when you talk about, like, you know, Tobe Hooper's hand, you know, people touching his stuff all the time. Even before Canon, like if you look like well before that, you know, after the first Chainsaw Massacre came out, you know, now we remember as this monster horror classic, but it unfortunately damaged a lot of their careers. Like people just did not want to work with these people, even though it was becoming this big hit and people were seeing it constantly and it was making waves. People did not want to work with a lot of the people attached. I think a lot of the actors had issues finding work. Hooper had some troubles for a while. So, you know, he moved to Hollywood, wanting to do some Hollywood stuff. And then it took him a while to finally get a Hollywood producer to do anything with them. And, you know, and then he finally did get some work, but then, you know, famously, everyone considered it, the whole Poltergeist fiasco happened. So Hooper finally said, hey, I'm going back to Texas. I've tried my hand at Hollywood. It's not working. I'm going back to Texas. And he went back to Texas, and then the whole thing with Canon and stuff. So it's like, even like before Canon, this guy, I mean, just to get to this sequel, what he went through from when that first film came out, and yeah, it's a monster hit, but everyone's kind of being like, oh, you're the people that did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To, you know, being able to get this sequel made, it's really it's a journey. I'd watch that documentary in a heartbeat.
Oh, it's great. It's fucking hilarious. It doesn't say enough. If you can track it down though, either get the Blu-ray from Arrow, or if you can find it, the gruesome edition DVD, which I have. It's got a whole hour and 15-minute retrospective / documentary called It Runs in the Family. And it just talks about everybody that was associated with the movie. And it starts with the screenplay. Kit Carson talks a lot about that and how he came into it. And yeah, Tom Savini's in there, talks a lot about that. Yeah, definitely go for it. It's worth it for that alone, because to hear those stories and to see it from that perspective, it puts everything in its place, and you definitely get to understand. I mean, the fact that the mob essentially owned the distribution rights for Texas Chainsaw and took all of the money from it, and Hooper never got his pay for it, like what he should have gotten for it. I mean, that in and of itself just kind of set the tone for how he was going to get treated by the people that, you know, basically financed his movies. So yeah, it definitely didn't start with Canon, but I think that was one of the more high profile instances of him, you know, getting in bed with some dickheads who the only reason he was even messing with him because they gave him money to make movies, and that's all he wanted to do is make movies. So
yeah, no, it definitely gets most interesting. I'm just saying, like, just the entirety of that history between the two films is insane when it comes with Tobe Hooper. Like what he had to go through just to get there and to get to this point, and the amount of times, like you said, people just kept shitting on him. But it was because of, you know, the mob holding his fucking money that he should have gone for the first movie. You know, Hollywood just treating him as this Texas hippie that made this disgusting film called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Or when he finally had to be like, I need to go back to Texas because it's the only way I'm going to continue getting work in something. And then he had to work his ass off to even get these Canon guys to go like, oh yeah, we'll fund your movie. Like God, yeah, no, this guy Tobe Hooper's amazing because he's, you know, we revert to him as a horror master, and he is. But how many people? I wonder how many people think like, oh, he did Chainsaw Massacre, he got rich and famous. It's like that's not what happened, unfortunately, with Hooper, not at all.
Do you guys think do you know if there's some reason why, after working so closely with Steven Spielberg on Poltergeist, which ended up being a monster hit, why do you think if there's any reason Spielberg didn't back Hooper up on any other projects? Or
I really don't know, because it's weird, because like I said, like Mick Garris on his podcast and his book, which I ordered, by the way, from what I know, he's made several mentions of Hooper is the director for that film. Hooper directed it, Spielberg produced it, but they did have a really good collaboration. They worked together. He goes, they did what a producer director should do. So he goes, yes, it is. He goes, it's Hooper's movie, but I don't know why Spielberg didn't ever back him up or anything. I never got that, because the crew scene, from what I understand, the crew was very big on oh, Hooper didn't direct that fucking movie. And Spielberg, I think to this day, hasn't really said anything about it. He has never backed up. He never backed up Hooper shortly after the Poltergeist, because like you said, it was a monster success. So I never understood if something happened, or if Hooper just said it's fine, I'm going to go back to Texas. I don't know what the fuck happened there.
Toby Hooper himself he wasn't really holding his hands out going why'd you fuck me or anything like that. And that also just wasn't his style. He wasn't the kind of person that was gonna cause a ruckus over something that probably didn't need to have a fuss made over it. I mean, the whole reason that story of Spielberg actually being the director was because some reporter was on set the day that Spielberg just happened to be doing some second unit work. And then they ran with the story that, oh no, Spielberg's the actual director. Toby Hooper's not really directing it. And it just started a whole bunch of bullshit. Mick Garris knows, because Mick Garris was doing publicity for Poltergeist, because he also worked quite extensively with Steven Spielberg. And above anybody else that was involved with that movie, short of hearing the words come out of Steven Spielberg's mouth himself, Mick Garris says that's Toby's movie. It has Toby's touches. You cannot ignore the fact that Spielberg, even in a producer capacity, he's going to have an influence. It's impossible to not have that there. That's just because it's Spielberg. If it was somebody else, it wouldn't matter. Then you never would have had this controversy.
I gotta say, I feel bad. Early on in the run of Filmgazm, Austin and I perpetuated that controversy quite a lot. So I'd like to take this opportunity. Mea culpa. I take it back. Toby Hooper directed Poltergeist.
Toby Hooper, God bless.
Holy shit, what's going on here? No, yeah,
it's called growth.
Walking back all kinds of stuff. Holy shit. I love it.
I still don't know. I don't know. Like you said, Josh, it's very hard to ignore, even if it's just him standing there. Spielberg is good. He's going to have influence. So I'll always wonder what was happening on the set. Always.
I always kind of compare it to the modern day MCU films. Yes, the directors are having their touches there, but obviously there's going to be that MCU influence.
Yeah,
because they got to keep it in line. Another thing, Connor.
That's true.
Yeah, Connor and Josh knows one other thing is Hatchet 3. Adam Green did not direct that movie. I think he was busy directing something else at the time. But he produced it, and he had he had a lot of still creative control, and he worked closely with the director. He handpicked the director. So yeah, it's that director's movie, but it's still very much Adam Green was there to make sure it fit in line with what he already established with the prior two Hatchet films.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got one of my favorite TV shows, Mindhunter. David Fincher directed 2 episodes, but they all have a David Fincher touch. All of them. They all have that same tone that we're used to with his movies and his TV now. So yeah, it's definitely a fair point.
So I guess what you can say ultimately is that Toby Hooper directed Steven Spielberg's Poltergeist.
I mean, Steven Spielberg came up with the idea for it.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, Mick Garris has spoken about his working relationship with Steven Spielberg in that, like, he literally like shits ideas. They just keep constantly coming out of him, and he'll throw something out, and it's not like he's saying it like, hey, you should use this. He just throws something out in a conversation, and Mick's like, okay, I can see how that would work. I don't know that I want to go that way, but let's try it. And Steven is all about the collaborative aspects of filmmaking. So, you know, the things that Spielberg absolutely influenced with Poltergeist, you just, like I said, you just cannot separate that. However, it's a Tobe Hooper movie. I mean, and I take somebody like Mick Garris, who knew both people and was there all the time. I take his word, because he has no stake in any of that. He's not getting anything out of saying this.
Yeah.
True.
So ultimately, the person who could have the most to say about it is no longer with us. And And like I said, he never caused a stir about any of it, because I don't think he necessarily cared that much. I think he definitely had his feelings about it, because you didn't really see him working very often, if at all, in Hollywood after that. Like Caleb said, he went back to Texas. And a point that I'll bring up, or fuck it, I'll just bring it up now. A lot of the groundwork for the Austin film scene was laid because of Texas Chainsaw 2. So think about that. And think about the fact that Tobe Hooper, a fucking born and bred Texan, gave birth to something that still exists to this day, and is responsible for, like, the fact that Joe Bob show, The Last Drive-In, they shoot in Austin, like, and Dallas. Like, there's a reason for that. So
I'm like so proud of that he's from the same place that I'm from. There's some pretty big time directors who come from Texas, and he's just got to be at the top of the list, and he doesn't shy away from that part of him. There are some Texas directors who will, like, maybe do one movie based in Texas, but no matter what he's doing, he just can't ignore, like, his roots of space. Like, I that's my favorite thing about the Chainsaw movies, is the amount of space there is just for shit to go down, for shit to happen, for weird things to happen that people won't see. I love that so much, and that community is thriving today. The Austin Film Society, obviously Richard Linklater is someone who's kind of taken the torch for Austin filmmakers and is there all the time. And you have to tip your hat to Tobe Hooper for being one of the first guys to do that. He's the man.
Even outside of like the film legacy and the film legacy he left, think about, like, the stuff that's still there too to this day. I mean, you got the house from the original film is still up. It's a restaurant. Me and Connor have been to it. The gas station was bought, turned down, and completely rebuilt in the exact replica from scratch. I've been to it. It's fucking awesome. So those landmarks are still there and still frequented and visited by fans.
They're a part of our culture. Yeah.
I mean, it's to the point where, like, I remember when I was a kid and watching the first one, people were trying to convince me, because they firmly believed it, that the first film was based on a true story. Like, that's how much is, to this day, is still just a part of the Texas culture. Like, it probably more so than any director I could think of back from that day from Texas. Like, he has a lasting legacy that will never go away.
Damn straight. We've covered a lot of his films on this podcast. I'm glad we were able to finally make peace with that Poltergeist shit. This is we're like settling any and all beefs on this episode, and that was pretty much it. So good job.
Well, hold on though. You can't do that. I mean, there's an Arsenal fan and a Chelsea fan in this group, so you can't settle all beef.
All movie beef,
film related beefs.
Film related beefs, that's okay, but I'm always right here.
We're not fairy godmothers. We're not solving everyone's problems tonight.
Connor, that's a world of pain you do not want to enter, my friend.
You're damn right. I don't even know where to start with that.
For a minute, I was like, wait, shit, no, we did solve the abuse. What's going on here? And then,
I was like that too. Like, wait, what happened?
And I was like, wait, whoa.
Austin's about to drop a bomb. No. It's there's always that stuff. I love when I find like when you're a huge fan of something like movies, and then I found out Josh also likes soccer and knows what he's talking about. That's really cool. I love shit like that. And connecting on that level, even if we're rivals, is super cool.
Nice. So yeah, Tobe Hooper, horror royalty in our eyes, directed the original Texas Chainsaw, Poltergeist, The Mangler, another one that we covered. Not a great movie,
not
but
bad.
A fun movie.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
He passed away in 2017 at 74 years old from natural causes, and his legacy speaks for itself. Oscar nominee Dennis Hopper stars as former Texas Ranger Lefty Enright. Hopper was nominated for Best Original Screenplay for 1969's Easy Rider, and again for his performance in Hoosiers. Hopper also appeared in Blue Velvet, Speed, Apocalypse Now, Super Mario Brothers, and True Romance, among other things.
True Romance. Jesus Christ. How could I forget? Oh, man.
Super Mario Bros.
That's one of the best scenes ever. Him and Walken. Just in any movie. That's one of my favorite scenes of all time. And James Gandolfini just kind of waiting in the back. Super, super cool.
After seeing, Hopper play such sadistic fucks for so long, it's nice to see him play a little heroic character, even if it's a little brief like that. Just a dad who's not going to give his son up to the mob.
Yeah.
Love it.
You know what? I think I'll have that cigarette. Yeah.
Your son, fuckhead that he is, left his driver's license in a dead man's hand. I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, me too.
I'm still thinking about Hopper and Super Mario Bros. My mind just stopped when I heard that title.
I had it like when I was putting this together. I like to shout out some highlights of their career, and I was like, Waterworld versus Super Mario Brothers. What's going to be more fun to talk about? Yeah, Mario. You were in it. Don't forget that.
Don't forget what you did.
I've never seen that because I don't. And I grew up with a PlayStation. I've never played Mario. So
I saw it once on TV as a kid. And even as a kid, I went, God, this movie is awful.
Prime real estate for what we got coming soon. Hopper, he died in 2010 at 74 years old from prostate cancer. But he's one of those character actors who's just going to live forever in his work. He's a guy whose performances were so unique and crazy that even in the weirdest shit, he's the bright spot. And yeah, I think, Texas Chainsaw, for me anyway, he's my favorite part of this film. Just this vengeful Texas Ranger goes to the fucking chainsaw store to load up and just fucks these guys up.
Oh, dude, that scene when he goes into that store, that is one of the most Texan scenes I've ever seen in my life. There's just like every inch of the wall is covered with different kinds of chainsaws, and the guy who's running the place, fuck, man, I feel like I've been to that place.
He's forgetting to turn lights on. Like, oh shit, you want to go back there? Just flip that on for you.
So good. And not before that, you see these two total dickheads driving to see Oklahoma and Texas play, and one of the most famous games that college football games in our state. So a game that's like lasted for decades. So that was really cool. That those little touches just mean a whole lot.
Yeah, yelling just hook 'em horns every few.
Yeah.
I almost went to UT Austin, but my guidance counselor fucked up my paperwork, and they didn't get half my stuff. So I'll never know if I actually got in. But I think about that.
Honestly, UT is kind of overrated school. I'll say it.
How so? I don't really care, but how so?
It's one of those schools that like it's becoming like so expensive because of its name, and it's like I don't know a lot of people that really enjoy going there. And Austin itself is like getting so fucking crowded with people.
Yeah, no kidding. Major problems right now.
Yeah, like if I guarantee you 35 is still being fucking constructed.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Hasn't changed since I left. Okay. So yeah, I just UT is just like it used to be a really cool school, and I just don't think it's really that awesome anymore.
Well,
it had its run of being like super badass. I think Austin in general is just like become this kind of commercialized city, but there was a time during Toby Hooper's day.
Exactly, Toby Hooper's day. Austin was having a great run. Now,
yeah, and you got Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Toby Hooper just hanging out on 6th Street and Rainy Street. So yeah, that would have been pretty cool.
Fuck yeah. Caroline Williams plays Stretch, the local DJ. Williams also appeared in Days of Thunder, Leprechaun 3, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, 2009's Halloween 2, and Hatchet 3, among others. And yeah, she was in The Grinch. Didn't know that.
Classic.
She's the little Who lady that, remember the Grinch steals their tiny car?
Oh.
She's the lady.
Oh, shit. I never put that together.
Yeah. And I'm glad I was able to watch all the Hatchet movies. So I understood, her reference in that. I mean, her appearance in that. So that was nice.
Yeah. And she had that one great scene with Sid Haig that we can't repeat on the podcast right now. It's really funny.
Yeah. It's loaded with slurs, but goddamn, is it the funniest scene of the movie. And we had a good time just yelling that back at each other. Oh, boy. She's good in this. She pretty much is screaming almost the entire time and seducing Leatherface, which I had a problem with the first time, but the second time I'm like, oh, I get it. It's a survival instinct. I got you. So
yeah, and it's just fucking with that trope. Fucking with that trope is so good. I love when movies do that.
Yeah. And I'll totally back Leatherface. I can see why he was having a thing for her. She's hot. I'll say it.
Well, I love those moments where Leatherface is in the foreground going like, trying to make a decision. Oh, yeah. It's good stuff. Bill Johnson plays Leatherface. He would also appear in the film Talk Radio and do a lot of background voices for video games, like not major characters, but like, infantry grunt and shit like that. So he didn't really have much of a career. But then again, Leatherface is kind of a thankless role.
Yeah. And I think that's the only horror icon I can think of that has had, I don't think they've ever retained. No, I lied. They did retain the guy from the remake for the prequel. So they did retain him. But I think, yeah, they've almost every single movie they've changed out Leatherfaces, unlike other horror franchises that have managed to keep someone for a decent amount of films.
Dude, and Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw the remake is, I point this out every chance I get. I probably said it on this podcast like 3 times. It just blows my mind. He is Christopher Walken's super thick-necked kid in Batman Returns. I'll never get over that. It's the weirdest connection.
The super thick neck turned into a hulking beast of a man because he was huge in Texas Chainsaw. Actually, you know what my least favorite fucking actor to portray him? I can't remember his name, but the guy who played him in Texas Chainsaw 3D, I did not like that one. That particular actor's performance of Leatherface at all.
I got to see that movie just to see. I got to watch the rest of these just, to cross them off my list. I did that to Halloween. I did it to Friday the 13th. I did it to Elm Street.
The old perfectionist trait. Yeah.
Completionist is shining through, huh?
Touche. All right. I'll tell you this. I will watch them. I sure as shit will not buy them, Caleb.
I don't give a shit. I love buying them.
I gotta see it. I gotta see him on the shelf. Yeah.
I am not gonna pay top dollar for Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, deluxe edition.
I didn't. Ty Shop, Orbit.com, was offering it for $10.
Orbit DVD, get it right, dickhead.
I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me.
Whoops.
We're gonna plug correctly.
Yeah. Come on.
Look, that one shot with movies. It was like $10 on Blu-ray, okay? Because it was a Warner Archives Blu-ray. So I did not pay top dollar, but now I own it. It's in my collection. I did pay top dollar for the fourth movie because I got the Screen Factory one.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I will never do that. I'll wait till they're streaming somewhere and then I'll waste an hour and a half of my time. But I'm never buying these movies.
Oh, I will. I love having them. So when I do my marathons, I can go on that journey.
Oh my God. Good for you. Jim Cito reprises his role of the cook, now named Drayton Sawyer. And if that's not the most backwoods Texas name I've ever heard in my life. Drayton Sawyer.
Oh, man.
Apart from the first 2 Texas Chainsaw movies, he was in The Wind Splitter, Hot Wire, a TV movie called Red Alert, and 1 episode of Amazing Stories. That's it. He just never did anything else. He died in 2003 at 83 years old from emphysema complications. And I wonder why he never became, a horror kind of go-to guy for a while there. I mean, he was in the first 2 Texas Chainsaws and it was just a couple bit parts and he was out. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure. I think, I don't think that was something he was really big on because everything about his personality from what I understand, Bill Moseley said that, he would tell you some of the dirtiest jokes. But it just, I just don't think it was something that he really wanted to pursue. He just did what he did. I think he was in a lot of if I'm not mistaken, I think he was in a lot of local theater stuff. And that's how Toby found him first, I think, something like that. I could be wrong. It probably where he came from is probably in that 69-page article I sent you guys that Joe Bob Briggs wrote about the whole. It's basically the history of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it's his favorite movie of all time. And he probably knows more about that movie than he knows about any other movie. And he knows a lot about every movie. So that's
awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah, I always got the feeling Saito just didn't really want to be this huge movie star. He had his fun with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2 and the stuff he did after and was all right, that's it. I think it was more of a personal decision on his part.
Yeah, you're probably right. Now here's a pretty big guy in the horror community, Bill Moseley, who plays Chop Top, the psycho brother of Leatherface. Moseley would go on to play Otis in Rob Zombie's horrific trilogy House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, and 3 from Hell. He also appeared in the 1990 Night of the Living Dead remake, the 2007 Halloween remake, Army of Darkness, which I didn't know, and in Texas Chainsaw 3D as Drayton Sawyer, among many other roles. He is a fucking random deadite lieutenant in Army of Darkness.
Sure is, and very proud of that.
I had no fucking clue. That's amazing.
I didn't know that either. I know he's been itching to play this role again when I was doing some work. He's been really wanting to play Chop Top. I think they said there's some weird legal issue rights hung up with the character is why we haven't seen this character since the second movie, but he's been itching to step into this role again.
I bet Canon is just holding on to that shit for no apparent reason.
Probably.
Well, maybe
those bastards.
Maybe Fede Alvarez can figure a way out and have him be in the new one.
I've lost a lot of hope after seeing They Don't Breathe 2 with Fede, right?
Me too. Yeah.
For a long time I was calling him Feed. I'm glad
Feed.
I'm glad I realized that's not how you say it before I had a podcast. So Bill Moseley, Otis is kind of his, the main thing he's known for these days. And that's
how I introduced him.
It's a gross.
You guys know how he got this role?
Yeah, I've got it in my Filmgazm facts. Pretty sweet. Pretty cool.
It's a cool little story. Have you seen it?
I have not, no.
Oh, I think it's on YouTube somewhere. You can fish it out. It's freaking hilarious.
I'll do that. Finally, Lou Perryman plays LG, Stretch's co-worker. Perryman was a Texas native who was part of the crew of the first film. got a role in this one. He also appeared in Poltergeist, The Blues Brothers, and Boys Don't Cry, among some voice acting work and episodes of Walker, Texas Ranger. And he was fucking murdered in 2009 at 67 years old by a 26-year-old ex-con named Seth Tatum, who got drunk after being released from prison, broke into Perryman's home, and killed him with a fucking axe. The guy was sentenced to life in prison in 2011 after pleading guilty. But what the fuck? I didn't know that story, and that really bummed me out to go out like that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad story. That nobody should die like that.
Oh God.
And I think if I remember it correctly, he was trying to be really nice to the guy, even though the guy like essentially broke into his house. You know, he knew he was drunk, and he was just trying to be like, hey, you don't live here, you know, you just need to go. And the guy just killed him. It's terrible.
Fucked up. What a horrible way to go. LG is a great character because he's just, there. He's helping Stretch with the radio shit. He fucking survives so much damage. Like he's like built like a tank. He gets hammered to the head like 8 times, gets his face cut off, and then just gets up and starts walking around. Damn, man.
Makes an impressive tower of French fries.
Yeah, built you a fry tower.
Yeah, he looks like every there's a guy in every single gas station in Texas who looks like that, with like kind of a shitty tattoo on his bicep here, and then cowboy hat, cut off Oxford button down shirt, some jeans, and some fucking square toe boots.
That's beautiful.
And then you walk in with like your sleeve tattoo, and they're like, "Oh, those are nice tattoos." And you're like, "Don't talk to me. I just did my fucking drink and get out of here, bro."
Yeah. I'm just trying to get my fucking big gulp on. All right.
He looked so much like Jim Cito. I thought for a second, like, is he playing 2 roles? Like, there was just something about. I don't know if you guys thought that too, but I thought they looked so similar.
I did not know.
Well, whatever.
He's really tall, that fucker. The LG.
Yeah.
He's like a mountain.
Yeah, he's like 6'4" or 6'6" or something. He's a huge, he's a big old boy.
When he falls that first time, it's like he takes out so much shit because that room is like so much of the production design is so impressive because there's just shit everywhere. And when they're in that radio station, there's just records everywhere and just stuff around. And when he gets hit the first time, like off those little stairs, that staircase, he fucking takes some shit out. And I was like, that guy's got to be 6'5", 6'6". He's a monster.
Oh yeah. So Texas Chainsaw 2 has an IMDb score of 5.6, Rotten Tomatoes score of 47%, grossed about 8 million on a budget of a little under 5 million, was met with mixed reviews. Roger Ebert famously gave it 1 star out of 4 stars was his main thing.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that later.
Thumbs up, thumbs down, I don't know.
Yeah, it was thumbs up and stars. I guess thumbs up was the show, stars were the articles. Does that make sense? We have articles and we do a show, and we're still 1 out of 10. We didn't change that shit. Anyway. Nonetheless.
Us doing thumbs doesn't translate well to a podcast.
I am holding 1 thumb up. 1 thumb. That would suck. TCM2 has become a massive cult classic. It's fairly beloved by fans who praise its wacky tone and memorable characters, among other things. So let's get into some highlights of this mofo.
Okay. Can we start right at the top? I think the thing that was pointed out by Kit Carson when he was tasked with writing the script was who were the family going to be going after, because in 74 they killed hippies, and I think he was telling a story about he was at a mall or something, and he saw that they had all these yuppies in a mall, these douchebags with their fucking pastel polos and short shorts and fucking mullets. And that was who he decided they were gonna kill. And that's why you got those two yuppie assholes on their way to the football game, who ironically enough are probably still characters that could be taken out today. And I love that scene so much, because it's like anybody that goes into this movie, you already know who we're going to see. It's and in a good way, it's about like, okay, well, who are these fuckers going to kill? And these guys so deserve it. Like throughout the entire time. And when you see them play chicken with the truck, it was like, oh, damn it. That's Leatherface, isn't it? That's Leatherface, isn't it? So I don't know if the first time around you guys caught it, but the puppet that Bill Moseley has through the rest of the movie, but his first like Leatherface is like wearing him. That's the hitchhiker. That's fucking Nubbins is what they call him. That's okay. Because in the whole genealogy of the Sawyer family, Nubbins and Chop Top are supposed to be twins. And if you really look, they're almost like a mirror. So where Ed Neal had this huge birthmark on his face, if you look close enough, you can see that Bill Moseley's got the same thing on his other side of his face. It's very faint. It's not as pronounced, but there's this mirroring that they have going on. And when I think the first time I saw it, it's probably like in my late teens, 20s or whatever, that moment where like he's fucking holding the chainsaw over his head and he's dancing around with him, and you got that, it's fucking Oingo Boingo of all the bands that are fucking that they could have chosen to play.
The soundtrack. Oh.
Yeah. That song, it's just like, I don't know who thought of that, but it was fucking genius, because it's just like, it just puts you in this mindset where you're just like, holy fuck, like, what am I seeing right now? Leatherface is just fucking dancing around, shaking his fucking brother's fucking corpse on puppet on him and shit. And then Tom Savini, fucking mad genius that he is, he's like, in the script, it says, he gets half his fucking head sawed off. He's like, well, how are you going to do that? And it actually looked believable. And then that first shot where doesn't even matter what these dickheads' names are, but the passenger is like looking over at his buddy. He's like, I think I got like his screams of pure fucking terror when you see his fucking buddy's half of his fucking wig is gone. He's just like slumping over slowly, and then the rest of his fucking head just gets chopped off and blood's just shooting out, little bloop, 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 bloop. I was fucking cackling. I was laughing so fucking hard, because it's just like, it's so cathartic, because you're like, I wanted these dickheads to die so bad, just wanted them to die so bad, and they fucking got it. And in the aftermath of all of that, Dennis Hopper's like entrance into the movie, that is like the worst Southern accent I've ever heard in my life. But it's funny because when you hear him recount it, he's like, boy done got his head sawed clean off going 90 miles per hour. I'm like, I'm pretty sure nobody sounds like that in Texas. And who the hell drives in reverse 90 miles an hour, for one thing? Pretty sure cars top out, because you know that the fucking Chop Top and Leatherface were driving in reverse, messing with these dudes. And it's just like, and not only that, like the bridge that they were on wasn't the one that they showed the next day. It's just like all this these little disorienting things that are happening. But it's just, that was the gauntlet getting thrown down. Like, if you didn't get it at that point that this was not going to be like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's no hope for you. You probably would have walked out pissed off if you would have first saw this back in the 80s in the theater, which if I would have been old enough, I probably would have laughed my ass off and I'd have been there the whole time. But that's just because I'm a sick bastard. But yeah, that right there, like, throws down the gauntlet for what the tone of this movie is going to be like.
For sure.
Absolutely over the top, totally absurd, and distinctly separates itself as its own movie.
Yeah, right away.
Its predecessor.
Yeah.
Another thing it does that you brought up, you said, Nubbins was the hitchhiker. Again, it being an actual sequel for once shows that, again, Hooper was the right person to come back and direct this, because his level of continuity is actually like really fucking impressive.
Yeah, for 12 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, in this movie, because he brings in the dead hitchhiker as one of the dead characters that they're utilizing. And then how does he explain that, Bill Moseley's his twin brother? Oh yeah, he was off in Vietnam during the first movie, which works because the huge amount of Vietnam readings have gone into that original film.
Yeah, for sure. Well, explains the, there are a lot of films that came out in the 70s that were so violent because they were anti-war, sentiments. And my train of thought is being distracted by my climbing cat.
Seymour, what's up, buddy?
I lost it. Who wants to keep talking?
No, yeah, because that's all really I had was that his Hooper's level of continuity after I think what was it 12 years is fucking impressive, because this was before you could go out and buy it and then watch it 1,000 times to refresh your head. Like, he knew it so well. He's like, okay, this is what we need to do to make sure it stays in line. Oh, how do we explain the bro? Oh, yeah, let's do this because we have we put some of that Vietnam type stuff in the first one, so then they can go well with the sequel where the brother was, and it all makes sense. It all makes perfect sense. And like you said, Josh, that opening does such a great job of saying this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre you're getting. It's not going to be the first one. So either you're on board for the next hour and a half, or you're out.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
the chainsaw in this title is one word now. Shit's gonna get real.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Look out.
So not only that, I think the fact that Nubbins is basically a puppet in this is also a testament to Tobe Hooper's sense of humor, because he's probably sitting there going like, hey man, it'd be real funny is if we brought Ed's character back, but he's just a puppet. That'd be funny. Like, that's Tobe Hooper right there. Like, his pitch black sense of humor. That's exactly. Not only that, so you think about the fact that Chop Top was off of Vietnam and comes back. He has like a throwaway line later on where essentially his money that he's getting paid for being a disabled vet is what's bankrolling them. So like all these teeny little threads are actually connecting to something, and it makes sense. Out of a movie that is not supposed to make sense, there's actual like grounded bits in this, and not the grounded bits that went into the chili, mind you.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and then we get to the hotel where we're introduced to Drayton Sawyer, Stretch, LG, and Tobe Hooper doing his best Alfred Hitchcock impression and making his cameo, which there's backstory to the helmet, to the fucking drinking helmet that he's wearing. Or no, he's not wearing that. He's wearing a fucking Horns helmet. Because everybody knew how much he loved Dr. Pepper and his cigars, Tom Savini got him one of those drinking hats so he could double fist essentially Dr. Pepper's and still smoke his cigars but keep doing his job. But that's him right there, fucking getting hit with the fucking can and throwing it back as Stretch is going to Lefty's room. Tobe Hooper.
I fucking thought so. I wrote it down. Like, is that Tobe Hooper? I knew it.
Oh yeah, totally. You can't mistake the beard and the glasses. Like, that's him all day long.
That's fantastic. I love that Lefty is Franklin and, help me out here, Sally, their uncle, and he's out for revenge. It helps you obviously relate to the character, but it also is just so great that this whole time they had this crazy fucking Texas Ranger uncle. And little things like that. I love how he establishes and keeps the continuity going. It's cool. The chili cook-off.
And Lefty, but I love when Lefty is just no matter when he retires or when he decides to hang it up, he can walk onto any crime scene like, fuck you, I'm fucking Lefty. Yeah.
Well,
So good.
The guy still referred to him by his rank too. So like
Yeah.
clearly nobody else has the balls to stand up to this guy. So
I wouldn't. I mean,
Well, I
so
love when
remember remember how I said that Canon had their hands in this. So again, the biggest things, and I think that really like hold these movies together, less so in the subsequent movies after this, is the fact that these movies were about families, and in some sense, these movies had something to say about either like a completely like male dominated family with a lack of a female presence, even though grandma has essentially been deified by these boys, which, so the way the family is supposed to have been functioning is Drayton, Bubba, aka Leatherface, Nubbins, the hitchhiker, and Chop Top, they're all brothers. That was the whole connection. Like at some point, some people thought that Drayton was the dad of the other two, but they're all brothers. And so this movie's always been about family, and it's always kind of been about this like us versus them type of mentality as well. I think where a lot of the humor comes in is how that us versus them is also Drayton complaining about being the small businessman who always ends up getting it in the ass, and he gets it in the ass literally at the end of the movie, which is wonderful. He's outside of Chop Top, like he's my favorite character in these two movies, absolute favorite. So there's actually a thread, another family thread to like further connect Lefty into this whole situation, is that it was supposed to be revealed at one point that Stretch is his illegitimate daughter that he never knew about. And
okay.
which makes a lot more sense when you find out why he is so invested in like saving her and rescuing her, because that's his daughter. But Kanan didn't want it. That got thrown out, and that's why like some of their like connection seems a little weird towards the end, but that's why like that was supposed to be his daughter. And obviously he's going after the family that killed his niece and nephew. So yeah,
I'm kind of glad
about family.
I'm kind of glad they didn't do the Stretch Lefty connection. I feel like that's not necessary, and it wouldn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessary. I just found it interesting that was something that was cut out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did they ever explain where like Drayton and his brothers, where their parents, or his mom and dad?
No, I don't think that ever got touched on. And really, like, I think that they probably just weren't around or died really young or something, because clearly what's implied is that grandma and grandpa raised these boys.
Yeah.
And whatever parenting that was done was probably very minimal. I'm sure that a lot of the reference for the original Texas Chainsaw being pulled from Ed Gein is probably why mother or grandma is deified the way that she is, because that's what Ed did to his mother. Even though she was a heinous, evil bitch, he worshipped her. And that's also why everything about TCM was cranked to 11. She had her own damn throne and altar that they found at the end when Stretch and Chop Top had their final battle, which I thought was fucking great. Saggy fucking dehydrated titties and all.
Jesus. Yeah. I I love that in this universe, the secret to immortality is copious amounts of human barbecue. It's interesting because I wonder if there's something like if that was drawn from like, you know, I'm probably reaching here, but like, you know, ancient Mesoamerican text where like consuming like the flesh of the enemy creates you like special powers or some shit. I wonder if they drew from that.
I don't know. The only thing I could infer is that if that they were at least in the original, like pulling a lot from the Ed Gein story, is that Ed Gein himself read a lot of pulp adventure magazines that dealt with headhunters in the Pacific and all this shit. And like, that was what they did. They were cannibals. They ate their enemies to, you know, get their power and to, you know, so it was like, and it's also just a crazy sensational story. So, you know, I think that had something to play in it. Maybe not as like overt, but you know, I also felt like it was their response to what was happening outside with, you know, like everything they talked about Grandpa and how he was the best, you know, slaughterer and all that stuff. And then when the machines came in, you know, it just pushed them out and they didn't have a means to do it. So what else were they going to do? They're going to find meat and they're going to butcher it and they're going to do it their own way. Yeah. It got warped to the point where they're fucking killing people and turning them into chili. Because this town loves good prime meat.
Also, would you want to live forever in this universe? Because like Grandpa and Grandma have seen better days. Let's just be honest.
Oh, good Lord.
What's Grandpa, 137?
Yeah, that's what they said. And I think I wrote it in my review. Like, I was like, he just ain't packing the same punch that he used to.
Yeah, like, look, at that point, kill me. Like, just fucking kill me.
Grandpa used to knock him dead with one swing, and now he's just like, yeah.
I love that touch in both movies, though, so much when he keeps dropping it. I love that.
So that's something else that, like, you know, if you're really trying to reach and do your psychoanalysis of this movie, it's like, the hammer and the chainsaw is the penis of the family. The penis don't work. The hammer don't work. You know, like shit like that. Like you could really dig deep and really like go for the dick jokes and the dick references in this movie. And it's all there. I mean, like there's plenty you could say about it. I mean, the fact that Leatherface is using that chainsaw as his dick when he's stroking Stretch's leg and then he just comes in his pants, you're just like, come on, dude. Come on. You got all that hard steel and you still can't keep it up. Like, come on.
You guys have like Stretch before.
Yeah. Oh man.
Days for him, man.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking about how I had the first film assigned to me in one of my film courses in college. Like, I love that film is being taught in film courses in college. That's fucking awesome. We actually did dig deep into like the meaning behind the saw and all that shit. It was fun. And I don't remember Dr. McClancy talking about part 2. I don't think she ever brought that up.
Couldn't wrap her head around that one. Yeah.
That's probably not subtle enough for her.
Yeah, probably not. I do also want to take a moment to just appreciate how Leatherface, one of the most iconic horror villains of all time, is actually named Bubba.
Yeah.
Not exactly a name that's striking fear into hearts there.
Bubba.
No, but I mean, it does reinforce like what Josh said about the family aspect. Like, of course, they're family. They're going to have nicknames for each other. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to always be like, "Hey, brother," like movies want you to think we call each other.
Wasn't Leatherface the nickname though? Like,
well, yeah, but Leatherface was the nickname, and then I guess they decided to change it to Bubba.
Well, Leatherface over years becomes his name. That's all we know him as. So yeah, Bubba would be like a secondary nickname. Yeah.
Yeah. Bubba Sawyer sounds like Tom Sawyer's like mentally deficient younger brother. Leatherface sounds like a monster to be feared.
Leatherface is a monster to be feared unless he's having performance issues.
Unless he's super into you and wants you physically, he's terrifying. Otherwise, he's kind of like fucking King Shark. Just like, yeah.
Now I'm wishing I could just have like Stallone talking with like the Leatherface get up.
No, I don't want to disparage Sylvester Stallone, but with the amount of work work he's done to his face over the years, I don't think he needs a mask.
That's true too. He just looks like that.
Yeah, he just looks like he's wearing someone else's face.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
You better watch out. You're disparaging Rambo. That's the same face. You gotta be careful about that.
It's not anymore.
I'm disparaging King Shark.
This could come back.
I actually really love the Rainbow.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, Connor, you just fucking saw your life flash before your eyes.
I'm just picturing fucking Rambo, like, rolling out of my closet, a knife to my throat, just being like, take her back.
And then Rocky comes and just gives you a nice uppercut. You're like, oh, fuck.
He starts just reciting the line from the end of the first Rambo. Nothing is over. Nothing. Just randomly to you.
He just gets super close to my ear and like fucking Brian Dennehy's me. Just let it go. Let it go. This is awesome. I fucking love these rabbit holes we fall down.
We fall down. Yeah. We don't mean to jump into it. We just fucking trip. Yeah.
We're straight up walking and we fucking plummet. There's no gradual descent. So the chili cook-off is one of my favorite parts just because of how incredibly fucked up it is. Just pouring that human chili into the trophy and him just being there like proud local businessman. Like, don't you love my meat?
It's just it's oozing out of the trophy just enough to like get onto his shirt and it's dripping on the floor.
And this is the second year in a row he's won this thing.
Yeah.
And they're just like, what's the secret? You got to tell us the secret. And he's like, just don't skimp on the meat.
Yeah. I have a good eye for prime meat.
Right as she chews on the tooth.
Yeah.
Oh God.
No, that's just one of them hard shell peppercorn.
And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, cool.
Doesn't think that. So I kind of made a comment about it. Like, so they're hunting the yuppies this time around, and all they're doing is essentially killing their kids and feeding them right to them. Like, if that is not a twisted idea, and also shows you like the fact that they're hiding in plain sight, just like it's come out so many times about so many serial killers that they're right there in front of you the whole time and you just don't know it. Like that is probably one of the most terrifying things about this movie in particular, before it like descends into straight up just bananas madness, is the fact that like they are literally functioning within the world, and they're light years ahead of Scott Tenorman. They're already already like doing what Scott Tenorman wished he could have done, or ended up doing rather.
Not only are they functioning, they're like full participants. They're winning competitions that the community has, and just going about. I think that is a good thing to point out. It's one of the most effective things you can do with a movie like this, is to kind of give that vibe that this is where they live. Texas is their home. It's fucking bananas to think that they just can kind of it's kind of their own little personal hell.
Yeah, they got a food truck and they're selling chili across the state. I love he's got his fucking nameplate on the front like dash. It says Drayton Sawyer, like head chef or something like that. And that's the idea that these guys are just like a rolling, slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
It's kind of brilliant.
It's also like, to me, like in a movie that's really overt with everything, it's like one of the most subtly scary. It's actually the most subtly scary scene in the entire movie, because while it's all comically funny with everyone being like, oh, your chili's so good, what's the secret? It's like, you as the audience, as soon as he steps into the scene, you're like, oh God. Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. How many people the past 12 years have eaten this goddamn chili? Yeah.
Well, it makes you think, like, how many weird cuts of meat in random gas stations or off the back road restaurants have I eaten? And like, there's a good to fair chance you've eaten at least a little bit of human flesh, just if you take any road trips.
Yeah.
I read about, like, I learned about a lot of serial killers who just were like, they were cannibals who sold human meat to people. And like, there was this dude in the 40s in Poland named Karl Denke who was just making pickled human sausage in his apartment and selling it in the street for years. And just once you find out that guy's caught, you got to remember all those times you bought pickled sausage from him.
Yeah. Like, fuck. You mean the guy on the corner of, yeah. Shit.
So if you guys really want to gross yourselves out, look up a guy from Canada named Robert Picton.
Yes. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. I've heard of this guy. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. The last podcast on the left did a whole series on him. And it's like actually known that between in the years that he was active, people were actually buying and consuming human flesh.
Yeah.
Oh,
disgusting. Yeah. I listened to Time Suck with Dan Cummins, and he covered Picton a few months ago. God, just that guy was a filthy bastard who also happened to be a serial killer. Like, these people are never just clean and proper. They're always just like nasty, barely showered fucking redneck freaks who murder on the side.
Ted Bundy was just a clean cut serial killer.
It's never like in between. It's either a total filthy animal, or it's a guy who's like fucking Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, who's like, okay, now I'm gonna put my shoes here, and now I'm gonna put my socks here. Yeah, and he's like a total OCD freak. It's one of those. True.
No in between.
No, you can't just be like us, filthy. You have to be one or the other.
As long as you're murdering people, that's has to stay constant.
Yeah, that's the one thing that they all have in common. Yeah, they do that.
Oh my God! All right, let's get back to fiction. This is fucking me up.
This is fucking me up. Oh, that's great. Good. I would hope episode 150 does that for you.
So let's talk Chop Top's intro, where he shows up at the record at the radio station, and it's just
my favorite scene.
So disturbing, so creepy. The fucking lighten the coat hanger and just scratching up there. You don't know what he's scratching at yet. And the way he talks to her, and it's so creepy, and he's so alarming and dominating that you don't even think Leatherface could be in the room. And
it's like the perfect setup, even though like you're asking yourself, where the fuck is Leatherface? Like, where is Leatherface? You're totally creeped out by this guy because he does not belong in that world. Like, he is so far out that he is just you are immediately just you're ready to fucking run. And I think what is really great is like how fast Stretch realizes she is fucked, and she knows exactly who this guy is and who he's connected to. Like, he knows that he was there when those fucking kids were killed. Yeah. And it's just like, and it's perfect. And it just keeps dragging it along, and it just suckers you in. It lulls you into this fucking false sense of like, well, I guess maybe we're not. Oh my God, I just shit my pants. It's Leatherface. Like that fucking bit. Like, oh God. And it makes me fucking cringe to this day every time I see him fucking doing that shit with the coat hanger. And it's just like, oh fuck, man. That whole bit with him and the way the lighting is, and it's all fucking weird and shit. That is like one of the first pieces of that movie that I saw when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And it fucked my brain. It fucked me up bad. Like, I had nightmares about that shit Thank you, Toby Hooper. I know you can't hear me, but I'm just saying it. Thank you. You fucked my dreams. I appreciate that because now I get to thank you for it.
Damn. That's awesome. Yeah. Even now, like I was totally fucking unnerved and did not expect that. And that was a moment where I was like, maybe I misjudged this movie.
Yeah. Well, I think this scene really, along with Toby Hooper, it speaks to just how good, depending on the role, Bill Moseley can be. Like he excels at playing bad guys. The moment he is on that screen, he takes command. Like it's his show. And it's just seamless. Like as soon as he pops up, it's like this is who you need to pay attention to, and he chews it. And yeah, the way he essentially is like the lead in to the introduction to Leatherface, which I think is probably like I would argue the second best intro for that character in the entire series is the one in this one. Yeah, it's a fucking brilliant scene.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I love when LG shows up and just stumbles onto Chop Top fucking with the records, and it's like, "The hell are you doing?" And he's like, "Lick my plate, you dog dick." One of the greatest movie insults I've ever heard.
Yeah. So that bit where he is smacking LG with the hammer.
Yeah.
That during the filming of that, Toby kept wanting to do it over and over and over to the point where Bill is like, am I doing something wrong? Like, and he asked Toby, he's like, am I not doing something right? Like, is there something I'm missing here? And he goes, oh no, Bill, I'm just having fun. He fucking loved that shit. Like, this is the fucking guy that you are being directed by a madman. And the fact that he just wanted to, because he fucking loved what you were doing. Like, that's the thing. Like, God damn it. That whole thing, like that whole dog will hunt bit. If anybody's ever fucking played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and fucking Jerry was a race car driver, Primus, you yanked that fucking line from that movie. Like, it's just like, that tells you the reach that this movie has had and what it's done to not just us, but anybody else who's come across this movie. It's always left its mark on you.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Another thing I really like about this scene is when Leatherface hits him with the fucking chainsaw, his metal plate. I love how Bill Moseley will sit there and just bitch at him and then be like, did you get her? Oh, my fucking metal plate, you idiot. Like, on a dime. Just, he's both mad, but also like, did you get her?
He's like self-aware. Yeah, for a couple seconds. Yeah.
He's like, oh,
slap me 5.
Yeah.
We can't hit the goal, but you hit my fucking head, you dumbass.
And I love that he called his Sonny Bono wig a plate cover.
Yeah. So good.
I love when Leatherface lies to him. He's like, yeah, I did it.
Go get her, Bubba.
Bubba. I'm never going to be okay with that. Bubba.
Man, it's better than go get him, cuz.
Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Bubba Sawyer.
Yeah.
I think it works perfect. Yeah. Bubba Sawyer.
Goddamn right it is. It's the most American thing I've heard all day.
Oh my God. Oh boy. So really the thing that kind of ruins a little bit of the movie for me anyway, and this is going to probably be a hot take with you guys, is sexually frustrated Leatherface. I don't like it. I don't need it. It's too stupid for me. Like, yeah, I like the idea of him having kind of a moral quandary. Like, should I kill this girl? I kind of like her, but hump in the air with the chainsaw and all that. Like, no,
I don't know, man. I think this could become a weird conversation. I think that character, if you were to just kind of on paper look at it, probably one of the most sexually frustrated characters we've ever seen in any movie of all time. And that, I mean, I would think that if it were trying to be a realistic movie, that they would be like, hey, he's frustrated. He's pretty backed up. I think that's true. I think that's probably the truth, and it comes through in this movie.
Yeah, to back up what Austin's saying, like, yeah, it makes sense to me, because if you think about it, these guys, especially Leatherface / Bubba Sawyer, they're not. He probably didn't mentally hit the age he should actually be at yet. Like he's definitely like handicapped to like a T. And so to me it makes sense in that like yeah, okay, he's this big hulking adult figure, but mentally he's probably still, I put him at like a teenager at best.
Yeah, it's like the Gimp in Pulp Fiction. Yeah, like
yeah,
dude, so this thing just doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, so in his mind he sees this beautiful gore with apparently legs that were just doing it for him, and he didn't know what to do anymore, and that was his way of releasing it. Like it, with how the family's portrayed, it makes sense to me, especially with how. So I'm fine with it personally, and it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I figured I was going to be alone in this camp. Although Austin, I am surprised.
I'm with you. Like I don't need it in any movie I watch, but if the movie's going to have this kind of handicapped character that just swings a chainsaw all day and is like screamed at nonstop, he's probably like, hey, like I don't know what to do with these thoughts and what's happening. I don't know what to do. And there you go. Sees the sweaty legs of Stretch and decides, and it's a little bit embarrassing, a little bit weird, a little bit creepy, but it's probably true to that character,
Fuck. I didn't think you'd ever be able to bring me around to this, but that makes sense.
Think about people you've met who maybe are handicapped, and you just think about that stuff. You're like, oh, I wonder what goes on in their head with all things.
I've never once met a handicapped person and thought, I wonder how they get off.
No, well, not get off, but how you function altogether. I mean, and that's just a part of being a person. Like there comes a time and age where you're like, oh shit, my balls dropped. So like that just is going to happen to every human being. I think it's good to put that kind of real shit in movies. And with this, they do it in a funny and really weird and creepy way, which I respect.
Yeah, I think if you take that and like you were touched on like how he's treated in the family, like in the first one, you see him constantly getting yelled at to the point that anytime he puts on a new face, he personifies that person.
Yes.
So,
yes.
It's pretty like established that mentally he's definitely not all there.
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder how like things we don't see on screen with Leatherface. I'm like, man, he's probably just getting fucking yelled at way more than we even know. As viewers, like his life fucking sucks. Like it's a travesty. So I just kind of get it. I kind of get that they gave him that scene to kind of like, whether it's funny or creepy. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Okay, I concede. Well argued, gentlemen. My God.
3 for 3 now? Jesus Christ, what's going on?
It's 150 episodes. There's got to be some growth, right?
Yeah.
I got to be a different person now than I was in episode 1, right? I imagine we all are in some level.
Oh yeah, 100%. I've just seen way more movies now and totally understand the language much better, especially with horror. Yeah. Doing Filmgazm over and over. Yeah, you just kind of, without even thinking about it, you just start learning stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
And today you learn that Leatherface is human and has human needs.
Bubba Sawyer is a human too, Connor.
Now I'm just picturing getting like super negative feedback from like some community where they're like, what? You telling me like Leatherface can't do what he wants in his spare time? I just have to like,
me a handicapped man can't get sexually aroused there, Connor.
Oh Jesus.
Oh my God. No, I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not. I swear to God.
Oh boy. So
next scene.
Yeah. When we get to the amusement park zoo or whatever that's supposed to be.
Texas Battlelands, goddammit.
Texas Battlelands, goddammit. Got it.
I put it in my notes as Texas Battlelands ! I don't know why, it's just how I put it.
The scene where Leatherface cuts off LG's face and makes Stretch wear it. Super disturbing. And was that like, would that later inspire the Devil's Reject scene?
Possibly.
I am very, very safe in assuming that, yeah, I'm pretty sure like Rob Zombie loved all these fucking movies. And it's he made no bones about citing his influences for a lot of these things. I mean, Texas Chainsaw definitely had an influence on House of a Thousand Corpses. You can't deny. I mean, it's almost like a beat for beat type scenario. And
actually,
yeah, absolutely.
I know that there's a lot of Texas Chainsaw 2 in Devil's Rejects. I mean, you've got the vengeful cop, you've got the family aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The stylistic differences in tone from House and Devils.
I'm just having a Kaiser Soze moment of like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I've only seen the Devil's Rejects one time, and that was a long time ago, but I remember the hit points. And yeah, I think, cutting off the face, and it's Bill Moseley both times, making him wear it. Yeah, it's fucked up. But in Texas Chainsaw 2, it's like super disturbing because it's like still wet, and he's like, he's almost looking at her like, you're beautiful now.
Well, I think he's also kind of demonstrating that this probably isn't the first time he's been in this scenario, even though he's definitely not experienced enough to know what to do with the rumblings in his loins.
Yeah.
I see pretty girl, I go squish. But he definitely likes Stretch enough that he wants to play with her. And I think that's part of it, because when he put LG's face on her in his hat, he's like picking up her arms and going like, do, 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 like, you're going to be the cowboy now. Like, oh, no, we're going to have some fun. And, yeah. And it's so fucking gross. It's so fucking gross. Lou Perryman was talking about that because he really loved meeting fans of this movie. And I didn't get to bring it up when we were talking about his introduction. But a young lady met him at a horror convention and was doing a photo op with him. And after she said, I loved your character so much, you're so sweet in that movie, blah, 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 he like leaned over before they snapped the picture and he was like, built you a little fry house. And he said this girl just went like, oh, you said the words. So like, and then he also gets asked like, were those fake loogies that you had in your mouth? He's like, what? No, everybody's got loogies. What are you talking about? So like, because that's all he fucking does the whole movie. He's just, I just found it hilarious that like he sits up and he's just like, just fucking spitting and shit after he comes out of his fucking coma from being skinned.
Yeah.
But out of all of that, my favorite thing, after he's like pointing at her going like, why are you wearing my face? No, you don't do that. He just fucking gives up and he's just like gives his little death rattle and he goes, oh shit. And that's it. Fucking close the curtain on LG. I fucking, man, when I watched this yesterday, for that fucking part, I just fucking died. I was like, God damn it. Like, oh, LG.
Why even bother having him come back if he's just gonna die like that? I mean,
because that is the moment where Stretch realizes that she actually cares about him. It's not in like, oh my God, this is, this is my coworker. I'm really sad about this guy. It's like she actually has feelings for him. She even says it. She says, LG, I love you. Like, maybe it wasn't the way that he was hoping, but she finally comes to terms with the fact that like she actually cares about this guy, and she is totally broken up that is the only person that could have possibly been able to save her, but he was already fucked the minute he met fucking Chop Top. And like that was another like real moment in that movie even though it's in a very fucking crazy ass fucking environment. Yeah, no, it's a totally real moment. You know, she finally realizes she loved LG, and it's fucking dead.
I guess
it's gonna be jerky soon.
I guess it's true what they say. You really don't know somebody until you walk a mile in their face.
I'm just saying, if
exactly.
I was Chop Top, or not Chop Top, if I was OG, I'd be pretty mad if that's the moment she finally tells me she loves me.
Yeah.
Like, really, now when my face and like half my stomach's gone, now's the time.
Well, just for him to get up and be like, oh, like kind of a little winded after getting his chest skinned and his face skinned, and just be like, oh.
He wakes up like he's hungover. Yeah, like, oh, damn it. Yeah.
Wild night, huh?
Yeah. Damn.
I mean, we've all had a few too many, woke up without our fucking face. God damn.
Oh, man.
I think the only time that ever happened, I was on acid.
Yeah. Yeah. Face falling off. Yeah.
Face off. Just want to point out before we get more into like this whole in Texas Battleland scene. One thing I really like on a little more serious note about this is between this scene and the finale to the original film, Hooper really displays his amazing ability to do controlled chaos in his movies.
Yeah,
because I've never watched a more chaotic film, but it still feels like there's control. Like, yeah, there's a lot of shit going on. He's assaulting your senses, but you know that the guy behind that camera has everything under control and is still only showing you what he wants to show you.
That's true. Especially, you know, how he cuts between Stretch and the family, which is pretty much exactly like Sally and the family. It's almost the same exact situation. But then also you've got Dennis Hopper just going like, tear it down, and
tear it all down.
Just not even like, just completely broken mentally. Like he's reached a breaking point. He's just like, ah.
He has gone full Ahab at that point.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Very much. And I wonder if like, was this before, like, did we establish like what came out, what was filmed first, Blue Velvet or Texas Chainsaw 2?
I don't know.
Because I'm wondering if Frank Booth influenced Lefty or if Lefty influenced Frank Booth.
What I do know is that he lost his shit when he saw fucking his damn nephew all decomposed.
That was great. Franklin.
Fucking Franklin.
So,
God damn it.
That whole underground scene was constructed inside of an old printing plant. And they bought a lot of basically everything. They bought everything and constructed that whole underground world. They also went around to a lot of farms to get cattle bones. So those are real cattle bones that are making up the bulk of the furniture.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. If they were missing a part of a chair, they replaced it with bones. Like really, like in a visual sense. Again, ramping everything up from where the first movie was, you know, fucking human skin lampshades and fucking, you know, chairs that have legs on them, real legs and shit like that. And all of that was, you know, all of that was intentional.
I gotta say though, in Texas, cattle bone furniture, not weird. Like
no. I would not be surprised by that at all.
There's this restaurant by my family's house called the Antler Cafe.
Oh, the Antler Cafe, baby.
Yeah. They're good food, but the entire place is covered in bones. The entire ceiling is covered in deer antlers. It looks like you're eating in Leatherface's kitchen or his dining room.
Okay. The next time you go there, fucking send me some pictures. I want to see that shit.
Okay, I will.
The thing is, that's not the only restaurant like that in Texas. Like there's so many restaurants. I have been to more than one like that in Texas in my time living there.
Yeah, Texas is loaded with just bone restaurants. It's become
weird
like
shit. Texas is full of weird shit.
Yeah, it's decor. It's the perfect place for like a family of, you know, cannibal food truck owners to just set up shop. Because who's going to question piles of bones anywhere in Texas?
Yeah.
And especially if you think about Austin with food trucks being a dime a dozen, you just fit right in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just slide right in there.
Oh my God. So yeah, all right. So Dennis Hopper finally confronts these guys after a little. The saw is family, which is a great line. And
love that line.
He just starts
all the saw,
and he just starts going to town on these guys. He's like, you shouldn't do that. Like his whole like, you guys shouldn't be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, like really. Yeah, like he's like morally questioning them. Like, hey guys,
this is wrong.
I like how he never explains why he's like. They're even like, who are you? Like who are you? He never goes, you killed my niece and nephew. It's never anything like that. It's just like, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. I'm going to kill you.
Well, right, they wouldn't have remembered anyway. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they've killed so many goddamn people. Yeah.
Well, they might
that whole
got away.
That whole bit where he shows up and Drayton's just like, in his fucking barbecue-addled brain, he's like, somebody sent you here to sabotage us. That's what you know. And he's pulling out that wad of cash, and he's just like,
yeah, I love that fucking.
And then when he fucking says that shit, he's like, I am the Lord of the Harvest. And he's like, who's that? Some new health food store.
I love it. He doesn't take this shit seriously at all. It's beautiful.
No, because he thinks that he's fucking from the competition. Somebody that's trying to take him out, because I already said it earlier, but small businessman always gets it in the ass.
That's so good. There's like sweat and blood dripping on the money that he's fucking trying to give him.
Well, just like if you're not on board with this at this point, Dennis Hopper versus Leatherface at a chainsaw fight, how do you not get on board with that?
Pretty awesome chainsaw fight that keeps going after he goes through Bubba all the way through, and he just keeps going. Like it's
full
awesome.
Penetration.
Yeah.
All the way through penetration.
Not only that, if you really think about it, it is also like a way that Tom Savini is bragging about getting this shot, because that moment where fucking Hopper turns him towards the camera so you can see both ends of the chainsaw and it's turning, Tom Savini's going like, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's like, gorehounds, people that fucking watch movies like this just to see shit like that. That's where fucking kids are jumping up and fucking screaming at the screen and cheering. Like, that's the kind of moments that this movie elicits out of you.
Fuck yeah, man. It's impressive. It's an amazing shot that he was able to accomplish that. And Leatherface is still just fighting with a fucking, 2-foot chainsaw hanging out of his guts. And Drayton's under the table and he just like pulls a grenade out of Nubbins. It's like, come here, Nubbins. I love that. And Stretch and Chop Top run, and then they get blown up off screen. It's pretty ballsy.
Extremely. Absolutely.
Love that. Love that use of space, use of production design towards the end when Stretch and Chop Top are fighting. Like, that shit is really impressive. And I'll always be kind of one of the things that gets me with horror movies and the genre films is like cutting over and over. So when he starts just kind of slicing her in the back, it's like, this shit is fucking gnarly and kind of gets under my skin. I love it.
I remember, like, first time I was watching this, just yelling at my TV, like, get up the fucking stairs.
Yeah.
Right on her the entire time. I'm like, get up there, go.
Yeah, on that ladder, and she's trying to kick him down. Oh man, yeah, that's just good movie making. Yeah.
My favorite bit is in the back of the Hopper Leatherface fight when you can see Grandpa with the hammer trying to be helpful.
Yeah, so good.
He finally figured it out.
Yeah, got a nice little flick of the wrist there. Yeah.
Oh boy. Grandpa? Well, that's all I got term of highlight for highlights. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we get into Filmgazm facts?
So one of my favorite scenes that is a deleted scene features Joe Bob Briggs in it, and it was kind of like following the family essentially like out on the town, and they're driving around. Chop Top says to Drayton, he's like, "You want to go see a movie?" Like everybody else is going to be at the football game. It's like theater's going to be empty. And then it goes into these two ladies who are with Joe Bob, just getting out of the movies. And Joe Bob is explaining to them that, a real set of boobs wouldn't react the way they do in horror movies, and like how the effects are done and all that stuff. And then they get to the bottom of this stairwell, and the back of the food truck has been pulled up to this door that was supposed to lead out. And Joe Bob is like, he remarks on the kind of truck it is. Leatherface fucking pops out, and he starts fucking sawing at the chicks. There's popcorn flying everywhere. And Joe Bob, you can't hear his audio, but you see in subtitles, and he's impressed, much like the chainsaw store owner was with Lefty whacking at that tree. And he's literally saying, "Well, nail my dick to a tree. That's chainsaw food." Doesn't make it. It doesn't make it in the final cut of the movie. But if you find the two editions that I mentioned, one from Arrow, the other one was put out through MGM. It's the gruesome edition. They have that deleted scene in there, and it's fucking hilarious. But that was Joe Bob's big moment to be in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and he never made it in there. So
that's still pretty cool.
It's fucking great. You can find it on YouTube, that deleted scene, if you want to just see that.
I watched it on Prime. It is available to stream on Prime, everybody, if you want to watch this.
Yep.
But there is a very basic Blu-ray that I stole back from my family because I like this movie now. And I've got that. So I haven't checked, but maybe it's on there.
I got the Scream Factory edition. I did like at the end of this movie real quick how they reversed the chainsaw dance from the last movie.
Yeah.
This time it's Stretch. And I don't know if they did it intentionally, but you got the tattered Texas flag in the background, like up on top. So I don't know if that was like a nice little, like one last little like nod or some kind of quick little subtle thing to put the tattered Texas flag as she's like waving the chainsaw around like Leatherface.
Well, considering that, Hooper's production design is so like on point, I think that was probably on purpose.
Oh yeah. And they're at the Texas Battleland. There's bound to be at least one Texas flag there.
Texas has a rule on flags. It has to be within a 5-mile radius. There has to be at least one.
Dude, in a 5-mile radius, there's at least 15. This state, crazy.
You go to first grade classrooms and they got that shit everywhere. Yeah,
we're the only state that has our own Pledge of Allegiance. Oh boy.
Own star state. Yeah.
Let's wave away the COVID. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's.
Don't need masks. We got a goddamn flag.
Oh my god, I love this place, but yeah.
Yeah, me too. It comes with pros and cons. Yeah.
Vaccine. I got Texas fucking patriotism right through my veins. You goddamn serious right now?
Oh boy.
All right.
So here's some Filmgazm facts. There's a lot of interesting trivia about this movie. Number one, Bill Moseley has said that his role as Chop Top is his favorite of his own. So it's his most favorite role he's ever played. Number two, Dennis Hopper thought this was the worst movie he'd ever been in. He would later say the same thing about Super Mario Brothers.
Only one of those statements is factually true.
Number three, Bill Moseley created a short film parody entitled The Texas Chainsaw Manicure, where he played a small role as the hitchhiker and showed it to a screenwriter who was able to show it to Tobe Hooper. Hooper loved it and kept Mosley in mind for a part should he ever make a sequel. When the time came to cast Chainsaw 2, Mosley was contacted for the role of Chop Top. That's hilarious. Mosley made his own short film. Hooper saw it and was like, that's awesome. And that's how Bill Mosley got a career.
Yeah. Crazy. He also gave a little bit of advice when he was making that. He decided it was a good idea to buy some head cheese. And he was like, don't ever do that. And I guess because in that he like licks it. He was like, yeah, don't ever do that.
Oh, God.
Oh.
One of the
that's advice you should never need. And number 4, Gunnar Hansen was approached to reprise the role of Leatherface, but he claimed to have been offered scale plus 10%, with the 10% going to his agent. When he replied that he had no agent, they offered scale without the additional 10%. Hansen found the offer too low. Unit publicist Scott Holton offered an alternate story claiming Hansen vacillate lied about the part, and the offer was rescinded. Holton didn't believe the average viewer was even aware of who the original actors were, claiming, who are Neil, Hansen, or Burns? Which is pretty fucked. But, you know, it is what it is. What do you think about, would this film have been better or worse had Gunnar Hansen been Leatherface again?
I don't know that it would have been the same way. I think what Gunnar did with Leatherface wouldn't have fit in this movie. I think they needed somebody else.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I agree with Josh. I think he did great in the first movie. I don't know if he'd be able to do this more like slightly comedic take here. And I think the guy who they did get did a great job as is. So I'm fine with who played him in this movie.
Yeah, I think Hansen's too damn scary. His Leatherface is terrifying. So there are 2 more sequels, then 4 additional reboots, and 1 on the way. If you want to hear about them, check out episode 101 on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Fuck it. I give this film a 7. It's not perfect, but it's far better than I used to think. So, well, you know, now it passes. 3 to a 7. That's a pretty big fucking rise.
It's a huge jump.
What about you guys?
Just shows how much you've grown, Connor. I'm proud of you.
4 whole ratings. You've grown from a 3 to a 7. I'm similar in the similar boat. I had it like at a 5 or a 6, and I moved it up to an 8. So yeah, definitely is a movie I'm going to watch, you know, frequently now. When I'm wanting to watch the 1974 one, I'll go ahead and follow it up with this. That's just going to be a part of my life now.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I had an 8. I'm gonna move it up to a 9. I love this film too damn much.
Very nice.
I'm pretty sure I already gave it a 9. It's gonna stay that way.
Mm.
Well, no, it was an 8 when I wrote my review, but it's a 9. So that'll
Yeah.
have to get updated. But yeah, it's just the more I talk about this movie and finding out little bits and pieces about the people that were in it and what went into it, and just how much fun it is. I mean, I still have fun.
Yeah.
I still have fun with the original, but this one right here, this is definitely going on my party movie list, because it's something you watch with a group of people, and it does not stop in offering you moments where you're just like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, what is that? What is going on? Is he really talking to his brother like he's a puppet? Like, what the fuck? Like, you know, just
Yeah.
moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. And then on top of that, you throw in all the special effects gags that happen in this movie. There's just endless things to enjoy.
Very true. So I was going to read Roger Ebert's review of this film, but we're going pretty long here, so I'm going to go ahead and not do that. But I am going to read one excerpt from it, one paragraph from the review. Roger Ebert gave it 1 star, and here is pretty much a paragraph that sums up his thoughts on the movie. This movie goes flat out from one end to the other, never spending any time on pacing, on timing, on the anticipation of horror. It doesn't even pause to establish the characters. Dennis Hopper has the most thankless task, playing a man who spends the first half of the movie looking distracted and vague, and the second half screaming during chainsaw duels. One technical point: the chainsaws are not actually turned on during most of the big scenes. Well, how could they be? You can see they're not moving, even though you hear them on the soundtrack. Roger.
Fuck you, Roger.
You got to learn to have fun once in a while. I learned how, you can too.
Well, and fine if you're like, hey, this isn't for me. But to like call it out by name and say that it has an ill use of timing or it doesn't understand horror anticipation. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, dude, you can say, oh, I don't like the stylistic choices. I don't like those things about it. They're not for me as a viewer. That's fine. But to basically lie about like to be completely wrong in a review is just silly. And he does that. Ebert did that shit. Whenever he didn't like a movie, we talked about this before we recorded, he took it so goddamn personally.
Yeah.
And right here's a prime example of he kind of takes it to a place where it's like, dude, you're not even right. You know, everything is up to the viewer, up to the beholder. But when you're talking about the like functionality of the movie, you're just wrong. It has great timing. It has incredible pace. Like it does things that other movies wish they could do in fucking 10 minutes. So I just disagree. Very, you can not like the movie. That's fine. I get it. Maybe you don't like all the Texas Chainsaw Madness. That's okay. But don't lie about why you don't like it.
Well, he comes from that era where like a lot of these critics, they got the reviews published on all the papers and they're on TV all the time. So it was almost like they had this higher thinking of themselves as like God, like we are the authority on what you watch.
Critique. Yeah.
And it's like, no, at the end of the day, like you said, like that's why I like how we do it, how I try to do it when I do reviews for sites. Like these are things I personally didn't like about the movie. Personally, you might like it. It's fine. But it's like, yeah, you can have things obvious because obviously film's very subjective. So you can have things you don't like.
Yeah.
But don't sit there and say like the film does this wrong when no, it does it right.
It actually does it incredibly well. Yeah.
Well, like, we've never claimed to be experts. We take this from a fan's perspective. We highlight what we like personally. And we give, our 2 cents. Like if you're into this, watch it. If not, avoid it. And I think that's a good way to approach film. Not everybody's going to love every movie ever made.
No, everybody watches everything differently. Yeah.
There's been bona fide classics I've fucking despised, but I understand when people, mostly Austin, like these movies. I get it. I understand why. That's for you. It's just not for me. But I don't, demand like don't ever like you shouldn't watch this. It's a bad movie. I would never tell somebody that.
No, you guys want to know something that's confusing?
Sure.
Roger Ebert gave a favorable review of Motel Hell, but hated this movie.
What?
That's so great.
What if he's not even consistent? That's great.
Exactly.
Who fucking paid for this review?
I don't know. It makes me feel like he has an aversion to movies that are violent and gory, because Motel Hell is not as violent and gory. It's a lot more heavy on the comedy than it is the horror, even though essentially these movies are both about cannibals. They're both about people who are murdering people and selling the meat to other people. The only difference being Texas Chainsaw 2 is supremely more outrageous and gory than Motel Hell is. But he liked Motel Hell more and was even trying to say, it's a clever satire. Fuck off, Roger. Fuck off. All right. It's okay if you don't get it. All right. Not many people are going to enjoy a movie that has the Cramps in the soundtrack, but damn it, I do. So get the hell out of here with your fucking head up your ass, bro.
I just want to point out when discussing Roger Ebert's catalog of reviews, never forget he gave 3 stars to Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Oh, well, then his opinion means nothing.
I always like to throw out that little chestnut where he's like, this is a fine action thriller. Like, fuck off, Raj.
Oh, that movie was boring as fuck.
Oh, boy. Always good to shade the classic reviewers. Always feels nice. Well, that's it. I want to thank everyone who has ever listened to any of our shows, the Filmgazm podcast, Oscar Sunday, and the sneak preview. We work very hard to churn these out. And it's a hobby. It's a little thankless. I don't give a fuck. We have a great time. I have an awesome group of friends helping me out here. You guys are the best.
You're the best. Well, I don't know. Rambo might think differently. I don't know.
Yeah, Rambo might have other things to say.
If this is it for me, if I just end up dead somehow through a Black Ops mission, this is a fun run.
I'm half expecting like to see an eye come out from your wall, like in the movies. Just
the headband. Yeah.
No, he's just gonna have a different blanket on him tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking great.
Oh man.
I want to shout out a special thanks to my awesome cousin Ryan Leone for our cool theme music. Badass guitarist. Thank you very much, kiddo. We'll start the countdown to 200 episodes, guys. Thanks so much for being here today.
Of course.
Next week, we're doing a film I've been waiting to do for a long time, and we can only do it now since the long-awaited sequel is finally coming out next Friday. In the Chicago neighborhood of Cabrini Green, there's a powerful legend that plagues the residents. If you say his name 5 times while looking in a mirror, you will summon a monster with a hook for a hand and a fondness for bees. Don't miss next Wednesday's episode where we'll be diving into the 1992 horror classic, Candyman.
Candyman.
Oh, about fucking time. I've been waiting for this forever. They postponed the new one. I wanted this to match up, and now it's finally here. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, Candyman.
Oh yeah. Be sure not to miss 1942's Yankee Doodle Dandy on Oscar Sunday and the sci-fi drama Reminiscence, among other films, on Monday's sneak preview. Until then, don't ever forget that the Saw is family, and thanks for sticking with us for 150 episodes. See you next Wednesday, and keep watching movies.